Welcome to day 2 of AIBC here in Budapest, Hungary. I am here with Torben Friis. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you, Mark Anthony?
I'm doing fantastic. We had a very, very packed day 1 with a lot of nice events on the side. Came here pumped up and ready to make some sense out of the industry and also the clients that came to visit our fantastic show. I see that you are representing Match Liquidity for the AIBC side of this event. I would like to jump onto some questions to better understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're disrupting the space. And so I've listed a bunch of them over here, and I'm definitely going to try do my best to ask every single one of them. I hope it's not going to bother you, but I'm curious.
Knock me out.
All right, so let's go. My first question for you. How do you see the blockchain and crypto landscape evolving in Eastern Europe? And what role do you think Match Liquidity DMCC can play in this market?
Honestly, straight up, Match, we go to something like AIBC actually to gather information and learn about new trends. So for instance, in Eastern Europe, we don't have a lot of business. What we generally do is we observe what is happening, and what I can say in terms of crypto and blockchain in Eastern Europe, it seems to be connected with Neobanks. I was also the moderator on a panel with the CEO of Wirex and the co-founder of Bankera, head of Hungarian FinTech Association. And what seems to be the case is that crypto and blockchain in Eastern Europe is something which is very connected with these entities, because conventional banks in Eastern Europe, which are predominantly owned by, in a lot of cases, by larger banks. You have Raiffeisen here, you got UniCredit from Italy here. All those guys, they don't want to get involved in crypto. So the neobanks have actually been able to swoop up a lot of the market share in terms of neo online banking. And then a lot of them also allow that you can do the on-off ramp, on-ramp converting fiat, euros or dollars into crypto, or off-ramp the other way, vice versa. And that simply causes that in Eastern Europe, a lot of people also use it, especially if you have people in Eastern Europe, let's say from Ukraine as refugees, they naturally use crypto as a method by which they're sending money back home, because it's much faster, it's instant on the other side, and a lot of people like that. So as far as Match is concerned, we are a pure B2B operator. We are a proprietary trading firm that became a market maker in the traditional finance. Our involvement in crypto is purely where we trade on a principal basis ourselves, and we simply come to something like this to gather inspiration. And the reason we do that is that a lot of people don't realize that the gaming industry can take a lot of risks in terms of trying new things like blockchain, things like that, because they have profit margins that allow that. So the gaming industry is something that does new things often before many other people. For instance, a lot of people are not aware of the fact that stable coins, USDT, USDC, they were originally an invention that the gaming industry pushed for to avoid chargebacks on credit cards, because Visa and MasterCard require that there has to be a physical delivery of a product that has been charged to the card. Otherwise, chargeback can be applied. The best example is when you book an airline ticket, then the airline, if it's with a credit card, is only allowed, they will authorize the amount on your card, but they can only book the amount when you've checked in for the flight. So you can actually see that on your credit card app. The gaming, whereas and a lot of people in, let's say, as gamers, punters in the world, they perhaps suffer from buyer's remorse. They go for a game, and then they perhaps had a lot of winnings, but when they suddenly lose, they call the bank and say, somebody stole my card, and then the bank says, oh, that's unlucky, but it's funny because it's the same IP address that you are normally logged in with. So the gaming industry is somebody who pushes innovation, whether people like to hear it or not, and that's why we go here to learn more.
Super. So it's good, very good to circulate yourself around these companies and see what new adoptions they're having, and of course, we make sense out of them then. Yes. Super. Well, I'd like to jump on to my second question for you. Can you share some experiences bidding on a winning auctioned item during the Sigma Awards night, and how does Match Liquidity, DMCC, integrate philanthropy and corporate social responsibility into business model, particularly within the blockchain and financial market sector?
Thank you. Well, first of all, we believe in giving back to society. That is naturally a given in its own right. And when, Sigma Foundation started, I believe it was in Belgrade 2 years ago, if I'm not wrong.
That's right.
Yeah. That was also the first event at which I, as the first person on behalf of Match, attended Sigma, because I had a friend who was a very powerful personality in the payments industry who said to me, look, if you want to understand the life cycle and ecosystem about all this stuff, you need to go to some of these conferences. And my background is from the financial industry and trading and things like that, where I've been for 20 years. So when I arrived at this, it was almost like Disneyland after dark kind of thing. I was like, what's going on here? And but then, meeting a lot of the people, I was like, interesting. But then when we then had the philanthropy element with the Sigma Foundation, I was like, this rarely is something that happens even in the classic financial industry. Then you will experience that somebody will make some sort of an arrangement with Oxfam or Amnesty International, what do I know, and all these organizations, with all due respect, this seems very transparent, and this seemed to be something which will do things for a good cause, and at the same time, it matches perfectly with the elegance of the awards night dinner, the fun and games with your auctioneer, Rick Goddard, running around like a rocket in the room. And it gives a different vibe of networking with people. So it is something that we have always believed a lot in at Match. And here in the Sigma AIBC format, it has been a perfect opportunity to meet new people and connect with old friends.
Super. Thank you very much. So in your view, how will Web3 technologies impact the future of financial marketing and trading? And are there any specific trends or technology that you are particularly excited about?
Well, a lot of people, they think that some sort of shitcoin or whatever it might be is going to be the future method of payment. We don't believe that's the case at all. The reality of the matter is that blockchain, as we know it, distributed ledger technology is something that a lot of banks have already taken on. A lot of people are not familiar with the fact that JP Morgan Chase, the world's largest bank, has actually already set up an internal system that's called JPM Coin. JPM Coin actually maps every transaction that the bank does internally as a database structured system. And a lot of other banks are looking into that because they are moving from old AS400 IBM mainframe server solutions. I mean, if you go to a place like Deutsche Bank inside at Winchester House in London on London Wall, and you see some of the middle office or back office screens, it's like an old blue DOS screen that's running. You're like, no wonder that you guys not only have a chaos on the balance sheet, but could also have an IT, because this is the oldest technology from Commodore 64. Wow. So blockchain as such is definitely a part of the future, and it is like this, that banks will 100% adopt this. A lot of people are then asking, well, what's going to be the future of money? Is it going to be Bitcoin? I don't think so. Is it going to be Ethereum? Absolutely don't think so. Is it going to be the US dollar? I don't think so either. Why is that? Because the world is changing, whether we like to hear it or not. But one thing's for sure, that the technology behind it is going to be something of this kind, which will evolve further. Vitalik Buterin had some very interesting comments about it at the Ethereum conference in Brussels recently. And the reality of the matter is that the way money is changing will cause that. Even if you speak to people very senior at Visa or MasterCard, they will tell you that they are looking for methods by which they can integrate this on their side, because otherwise their entire business model is threatened if something like a crypto blockchain peer-to-peer solution between, let's say, all involved parties kicks off without them being the intermediary.
Okay. Well, look, I have one final question for you, and I would like to close with this and allow you to continue networking. what are your key takeaways from the AIBC event here in Budapest, particularly in terms of opportunities and challenges you see in the Eastern European market?
Well, going back to what I was saying before, the reality of the matter is that when you look at blockchain and crypto, it is something that requires adoption. And conventional banks in Eastern Europe have been very scared about this because their bosses at the big banks in Western Europe have not been too hot on this, which is naturally also a sign of the fact that, let's say, if we were guys doing things the old way, let's say in a supermarket 100 years ago, where you come into the counter and you would tell the grocer what you would like to buy, and he would go and get it for you, and he would charge you, let's say, 100% more than was going to be the case once the counter at the front of the shop would be removed, and you would roam through the shop by yourself, and you would have to cut prices by 50%. That's naturally something that he does not want to do because he understands that that will change his business model.
It's a comfortable surcharge.
Absolutely. So in Eastern Europe, again, I'm convinced that neobanks and whatever comes along with that, they are going to be driving that adoption. When it comes to things like the takeaways I've taken from that, especially the panel talk we had yesterday, it's very clear that there are a lot of elements even at the government level at this. I've heard a few rumors whisper in the wind that the Hungarian government is contemplating setting up the first government-sponsored crypto exchange. So we'll see. And that could, for instance, be something that would, Hungary is one of the few countries inside the European Union which is not a part of the Eurozone. So Hungary itself constantly is in a situation where they need foreign currency, because the Hungarian forint is not as liquid as if you were a country that was a signatory under the Euro Treaty, whereby they could call on the ECB in Frankfurt if they say, look, we're a little bit short on cash, can you send us 50 billion euros? And then, under Target 2 arrangement, the ECB Frankfurt say, yeah, done, right? Yeah. But the Hungarians, they have to think out of the box. So in conclusion, from what I've seen and learned, I think it's very likely that you might see that Hungary could be a player in the blockchain crypto space at a very senior level in terms of adoption in the quite foreseeable future.
Torben, I'd like to thank you very, very much for the elaboration on Match Liquidity. I'd like to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come by and have a chat with me. I wish you a happy networking. I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of you in the coming future. Hope to see you in November in Malta for our Sigma AIBC show happening from the 11th till the 14th. And I'll be seeing you on the floor. Thank you very much for coming by.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'll see you in Malta.
You will indeed.
Thank you, cheers.